And we are live. Welcome to Olivia's Stories, ladies and gentlemen. Story number 1.
I was going through a pile of mail after a long day at work when I found an envelope with no return address. Odd. I turned it over, searching for a clue of its origin, but there was nothing, just my name, Sam, written in an elegant, looping script that I didn't recognize. Tearing open the envelope, I extracted a single sheet of paper. The note was concise, but its contents made my heart race. Dear Sam, there are things happening in the shadows that you ought to know. Luna, your moon and stars, might be seeing someone called Shadow. Be careful. Don't let the dark cloud your vision. Yours, Whistle. I read it once, then twice, and then a third time. Luna, my Luna. I thought of our times together, the laughter, the shared dreams, our promises. It seemed impossible. She was the love of my life, and I believed I was hers. The thought of her sneaking around with someone else was absurd. But who was Whistle? And why would they tell me this? Was it some kind of sick joke? Maybe it was just a prank from one of my buddies trying to mess with me. I chuckled, imagining Dave or Mike drafting this dramatic note. They always loved their little pranks. However, as the hours passed, the note's weight seemed to grow heavier in my mind. My initial disbelief began to war with a budding seed of doubt. Was there any truth to this mysterious message? I remembered Luna's recent late nights at work and her guarded behavior around her phone. Were those the signs I missed, or was I just being paranoid? I decided to confront Luna, but then hesitated. What if it was all a joke and I ended up hurting her feelings? What if it wasn't, and I wasn't ready for the truth? I felt trapped between wanting to know and fearing the answer. That night, I tucked the letter away in a drawer, convincing myself it was just a prank. I watched Luna as she slept beside me, her face serene and innocent. But in the deep, quiet hours of the night, the seed of doubt planted by Whistle began to take root, making me question everything I thought I knew. The mysterious letter from Whistle haunted my every waking moment. I tried to dismiss it, tried to bury it beneath the weight of routine and the mundane tasks of everyday life. But every time Luna received a text or call, every time she smiled at her screen or hurriedly put her phone away, that nagging feeling of doubt twisted my insides. One evening, as the sun's last rays painted the sky in hues of gold and purple, Luna mentioned she had to meet a colleague for some urgent work discussions. She kissed me on the cheek, her scent lingering in the room, a mix of roses and the vanilla perfume she always wore. Hours ticked by. The house, usually filled with the melody of our laughter, felt unusually silent. My heart raced with a mix of curiosity and fear. What if the letter was right? The thoughts consumed me, urging me to dig deeper. I began in our bedroom, looking for something, anything, that might either confirm or dispel my worst fears. As I was rummaging through Luna's bedside drawer, a metallic glint caught my eye. Pushing aside some papers, I found a sleek black phone I'd never seen before. The phone was unlocked. Its home screen displayed a single messaging app. Hesitating for only a moment, I clicked on it. The most recent chat was labeled Shadow. Taking a deep breath, I began to read. "Can't wait to see you again," it began. "We have to be cautious. He might be getting suspicious." Another message read. My heart sank as I continued to scroll, each message a sharp dagger to my heart. There were dates, times, coded words, all suggesting secret rendezvous points and meetups. Each message was like a window into a world I had been blind to, a parallel universe where Luna wasn't mine. The room felt like it was closing in on me. The weight of the betrayal, so evident in those texts, bore down on me. My Luna, my love, was living a double life. The taste of bile rose in my throat. Determined to find out more, I searched for any details about Shadow. But as if they were cautious, there were no pictures, no calls, just texts. Texts that painted a story of deceit. The reality hit me hard. My world, which was once filled with trust and love, now seemed to be crashing down. But I wasn't ready to confront her just yet, not without solid evidence. I needed to know more, and as the evening wore on, my determination grew. The mystery of Whistle and Shadow was only beginning to unravel. The days that followed were a blur, filled with veiled glances, forced conversations, and sleepless nights. The secret phone and its revelations played on a continuous loop in my mind, a torturous reminder of Luna's betrayal. Each day, I found it harder to look into her eyes without feeling the sting of those concealed messages. One cool morning, as I was engrossed in my work, my phone buzzed with an incoming call. The screen displayed Dr. Smithson's clinic. I frowned, trying to recall any recent visits or checkups, but drew a blank. "Hello, is this Mr. Sam?" a professional voice inquired from the other end. "Yes, speaking." "Good morning, Mr. Sam. We're calling from Dr. Smithson's clinic. We have some test results for Mrs. Luna. She had listed you as an emergency contact. Should we forward them to you?" Puzzled, I replied, "Yes, please send them over." Within minutes, an email notification pinged. I quickly opened it, scanning through the clinical jargon. Halfway down the page, my heart skipped a beat. The words stood out, clear and damning. Positive, incurable STD. I felt like the ground had been pulled from beneath my feet. The implications were immediate and shattering. This wasn't just about secret meetings or texts anymore. This was a tangible, grim reality. How long had this been going on? Was I at risk? The weight of Luna's betrayal felt even more profound. For a moment, anger consumed me. The urge to confront Luna was overwhelming, but I held back, realizing that I needed to approach this cautiously. I had to understand the full scope of Luna's secrets before bringing them into the open. There were too many unknowns: the identity of Whistle, the full extent of her relationship with Shadow, and now this medical report. Feeling isolated and betrayed in a city as vast and impersonal as New York only added to my despair. The skyscrapers and crowded streets, which once felt so full of promise, now seemed cold and indifferent. Each day grew colder, a reflection of the increasing distance between Luna and me. The secret phone, the letter from Whistle, the news from Dr. Smithson, all of it formed a storm inside me. But there was one piece missing: the identity of Shadow. One evening, as I was working late in the study, Luna received a call. I watched as her face lit up in a way it hadn't for weeks. She whispered, thinking I couldn't hear, "Tomorrow, Central Park, our usual spot." My heart raced. This was the opportunity I had been waiting for. It was time to unveil Shadow. The next day, the sky was overcast, setting an apt mood for my clandestine mission. I dressed in inconspicuous clothing and set out, ensuring I arrived at Central Park well before their planned meeting time. I positioned myself behind the thick foliage near Bethesda Terrace, a spot from where I could see without being seen. I watched as families laughed, children played, and street musicians filled the air with melodies. But all I could focus on was the impending arrival of Luna and her mysterious companion. Hours seemed to drag, until finally I spotted her. Luna, looking radiant in a white dress, her hair dancing with the breeze. Not far behind her was a familiar figure, and as he emerged from the shadows, my heart sank. It was Alex, my best friend since college. The guy I'd shared countless memories with, confided my deepest secrets to, and considered a brother. They met with an intimacy that left no room for doubt, laughing, whispering, their fingers entwined. I watched, heartbroken and betrayed, as they sat on a secluded bench, lost in their world. The sight of them, so close and comfortable, felt like a physical blow. The weight of the revelation hit me hard. The deceit wasn't just Luna's, it was Alex's as well. The two people I had trusted most had conspired against me, their actions casting a shadow over years of shared memories. As they got up to leave, I retreated further into the foliage, ensuring I wasn't spotted. Every ounce of my being wanted to confront them, but I knew the time wasn't right. I had to process this, to figure out my next move. I left Central Park with a heavy heart, the sounds of laughter and mirth around me, a stark contrast to the storm raging within. The game of secrets and lies had taken a turn I had never expected, and I knew I had to tread carefully as I navigated this treacherous path. The silence of our home was suffocating. With each tick of the clock, my resolve strengthened. It was time to confront Luna. I gathered the letter, the secret phone, and the medical report, laying them out on the living room table like pieces of a shattered puzzle. When Luna walked in, she paused, sensing the heavy atmosphere. Her eyes darted to the items on the table, and for a fleeting moment, I saw panic. "Sam," she began, her voice shaky. "What's all this?" Taking a deep breath, I pointed to the letter. "Do you recognize this, Luna?" She glanced at it and then back at me, feigning confusion. "No, why should I?" I continued, my voice steely. "This letter told me about Shadow. I didn't want to believe it. But then I found this." I gestured towards the secret phone. Her eyes widened and she took a step back. "Sam, I don't know what you think you found, but you're overreacting. You're always so suspicious, reading into things." Her words, meant to deflect, only fueled my anger. "Luna," I snapped, "I've read the messages. I've seen you with him, with Alex. How could you?" She hesitated, her face pale. "Sam, it's not what you think. You're blowing things out of proportion." But I wasn't to be dissuaded. I held up the medical report. "And this, Luna, how do you explain this?" For a long moment, she just stared, the weight of her secrets pressing down on her. Finally, tears streaming down her face, she admitted, "Yes, I had an affair, but you drove me to it. You were always so busy, so absent. I felt lonely, Sam." Her attempt to shift the blame to me was a sharp slap across the face. How had we reached this point? Our love, once pure and untainted, was now buried under layers of deceit and hurt. I replied, my voice breaking. "Luna, whatever issues we had, they didn't warrant this betrayal. Not like this." She sobbed. "I'm sorry, Sam. I never meant for any of this to happen." The room grew colder, the distance between us seeming insurmountable. The pain of the revelations, the magnitude of the betrayal, left us both broken and lost. The future of our relationship hung in the balance, its foundation shaken to its core. I texted Alex, asking him to meet me at a cafe we both knew well, situated with a clear view of the Statue of Liberty. It was a place where we had made many memories, celebrated milestones, and poured our hearts out to each other. It felt oddly appropriate to confront him there. The atmosphere in New York was thick with tension as I made my way to the cafe near the Statue of Liberty. Memories of shared laughs, secrets, and milestones with Alex in this very spot amplified the bitterness of his betrayal. Upon entering the cafe, I immediately spotted Alex, seated nervously at our usual spot. His guilt was evident, but so was a hint of defiance. Without waiting for formalities, I stormed over, my voice dripping with anger. "How could you, Alex?" He looked up, startled, but quickly regained composure. "Sam, sit. Let's talk about this." "Talk? You think talking can fix what you've done?" I ceded, attempting to de-escalate. Alex began. "I know I mess it up, but..." Unable to contain my anger, I lunged at him, grabbing him by the collar and pulling him to his feet. The cafe erupted in gasps and murmurs. "You betrayed me with my wife!" I yelled. Alex struggled, pushing me off. "Sam, stop it!" he shouted back, his face red with a mix of embarrassment and anger. We grappled, knocking over chairs and tables, causing a scene. Patrons scrambled out of our way, some shouting for us to stop, others pulling out their phones to record the altercation. After what felt like an eternity, a couple of cafe staff members and bystanders managed to pull us apart. We were both panting, disheveled, with anger still burning in our eyes. Alex, his voice shaky, muttered, "Sam, I'm sorry. I never meant for things to get this far." I looked at him, my best friend, now the source of my deepest pain. "Stay away from me and Luna," I spat out, my voice cold. Turning my back to him and the shocked onlookers, I left the cafe. In the solitude of our home, surrounded by the memories Luna and I had built, the idea began to form. Every whispered secret, every stolen glance between Luna and Alex, it needed to be exposed. Not just for me, but for everyone to see the true faces behind the masks they wore. The plan needed to be straightforward, simple, yet impactful. I decided to make use of something everyone uses daily, social media. Gathering the evidence, the letter, the screenshots from the phone, and the medical report snippet, I made a single, concise post detailing the betrayal. With a heavy heart, I typed, "Sometimes the ones closest to you hurt you the most." Underneath this caption, I attached the pieces of evidence, ensuring they were clear enough for anyone to understand, but without revealing anything too personal or confidential. Before hitting post, I hesitated, taking a deep breath. This was a point of no return, but it felt necessary, not just for me, but for others to see the truth. Within minutes of uploading, the notifications started pouring in. Shocked reactions, comments, messages of support, and those seeking clarity. Luna's phone would be buzzing with the same notifications since we had many mutual friends and family on the platform. Alex, who wasn't much of a social media enthusiast, would soon hear about it from friends or coworkers, if not from the storm on the internet. The fallout was immediate. Luna called repeatedly, her voice messages ranging from anger to sorrow. Alex texted, "We need to talk," but I wasn't ready. Not yet. The choice to expose them this way was simple, but effective. The community's reaction was a mixed bag of sympathy for me and disappointment in Luna and Alex. As the days progressed, the storm slowly faded, but the scars remained, leading me to wonder about the next steps in this twisted journey. The following days were a hurricane of emotions. The house echoed with the weight of silence, interrupted occasionally by the pings of messages or calls. Luna had moved out temporarily, but her presence lingered in every corner. It was a sunny Tuesday when I heard the rumble of a car engine outside. Glancing out the window, I saw Alex's familiar car parked aggressively across my driveway, blocking me in. My heart raced. This wasn't like Alex. Even in our college days, he was always the calm, level-headed one. But of course, I'd also thought he was loyal. Without waiting for me, he stormed to the front door, banging loudly. I took a deep breath and opened it, ready to face the fallout. "You had no right," Alex spat out before I could greet him. His face was red, eyes filled with a mix of guilt and anger. "Every right," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. "You both played with my life, and the world deserved to know. You ruined everything." His voice rose, attracting the attention of a few neighbors who peeked out from behind their curtains. "Actually, you did," I shot back, refusing to be intimidated. He stepped closer, our faces inches apart. "You think you've won by exposing us? Think again." Before I could respond, he turned on his heel and stormed back to his car. I watched as he drove away, the sound of screeching tires echoing in the distance. Confused and uneasy, I went back inside, but a sense of dread settled over me. Alex's words played on repeat in my head. What did he mean by think again? Hours turned into days, and strange things began to happen. A mysterious scratch appeared on my car. My mailbox was found vandalized. Anonymous packages filled with unsettling items began to arrive. Every night I'd hear the distant sound of someone lurking outside. I'd rush to check, but no one was there. The paranoia grew. Was Alex behind all this, or was it my imagination? Then, the pinnacle of these events. I found a note slipped under my door one evening. Scribbled in angry handwriting, it read, "You think you've seen the worst? Just wait." Fear began to replace my anger. I needed to be careful and watchful. As I pondered my next move, one thing became clear. This battle was far from over. Luna and Alex might have been exposed, but the war of emotions and pride raged on. The days after the threats were challenging, to say the least. Everywhere I went, it felt like I was being watched. Alex's face would frequently pop up in places I didn't expect, in the grocery store, at the local diner, even during my morning jog. Luna, on the other hand, had become a ghost, but her absence was felt more profoundly than any of Alex's appearances. It started with rumors, whispers behind my back at work about my mental stability. There were anonymous emails sent to my colleagues and superiors, painting me as unstable, suggesting I needed a leave of absence. My work performance was suddenly under scrutiny. Next came the bank notices, several huge transactions wiping out our joint accounts. Luna had taken almost everything, leaving me financially paralyzed. Isolated and struggling, I felt like the world was caving in on me. Friends began to distance themselves, likely influenced by Alex's or Luna's versions of the story. One afternoon, after another tense day at work, I found my house vandalized. Homewrecker was spray painted in large, angry letters across the front. My heart sank. They were determined to break me in every possible way. Desperation led me to hire a private investigator. I needed evidence, not just to clear my name, but to turn the tables and regain some control over my life. Weeks went by, and just when I thought all hope was lost, the investigator came through. He'd captured video evidence of Alex buying spray paint from a store and later defacing my property. He'd also traced back the anonymous emails to a computer in Alex's home. With the evidence in hand, I took legal action. A restraining order against Alex was my first move, followed by a defamation lawsuit. The tides were beginning to turn, but the battle was far from over. Luna was still out there, and while I had managed to shield myself from Alex, the scars of their betrayal ran deep. The road to recovery and justice was only just beginning. Months passed since the legal proceedings began, and the city buzzed with the scandal. My once peaceful and predictable life had turned into a stormy drama, and every day was a fight to reclaim my truth. Luna had gone into hiding, but I knew it wouldn't be long before our paths crossed again. One chilly evening, I received a cryptic text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the Brooklyn Bridge midnight. It ends tonight." My pulse quickened. It had to be Luna. This was the confrontation I had been both dreading and anticipating. Midnight found me at the bridge, the city lights shimmering in the distance and the water below reflecting the silver glow of the moon. The wind whispered secrets as I waited. Footsteps echoed. Luna emerged from the shadows, her silhouette framed by the cityscape. There was a vulnerability in her posture, so different from the defiant woman I once knew. "Why here?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because," Luna replied, her voice thick with emotion. "This is where it all began, remember? Our first date, the promises, the dreams." I nodded, memories flooding back. "I've lost everything, Sam," Luna continued, tears glistening in her eyes. "Alex betrayed me too. He took the money and disappeared. I was just a pawn in his game." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "You expect me to believe that?" Luna pulled out a stack of papers. Bank transactions, letters, evidence of Alex's deception. He played us both. Going through the documents, anger turned to shock. Alex had been the puppet master, weaving a web of lies and deceit, playing Luna and me against each other for his gain. "I'm so sorry, Sam," Luna whispered, her voice breaking. "I let my vulnerabilities be exploited. I should have trusted you, talked to you." The revelation was overwhelming. While Luna had made grave mistakes, Alex was the root of our misery. "We need to find him," I said, determination seeping through. "Together." The next weeks were a whirlwind. With Luna's inside knowledge and the evidence she provided, we tracked down Alex's whereabouts. Law enforcement closed in, and soon, news broke that Alex had been captured in a remote European town, living luxuriously off the money he'd stolen. After uncovering the scale of Alex's deceit, the chilling truth was inescapable. He was far beyond our reach. Every avenue we tried to trace him down ended in frustration. The intricate network of offshore accounts, aliases, and an array of international contacts made it clear. Alex had been preparing for this escape for a long time. Luna was desperate to make amends. "Sam," she implored one evening, as we sat in my dimly lit living room, "I know I've wronged you in so many ways, but we can still start over. We can rebuild. Together." I looked into her eyes, searching for the woman I had once loved with all my heart. But all I saw were the scars of betrayal, the echoes of choices made and the path taken. "Luna," my voice broke, "it's not that simple. Too much has happened." She reached out, placing a trembling hand over mine. "I was fooled, manipulated, but my feelings for you were always real. We can get through this, can't we?" I withdrew my hand slowly, the distance between us growing more profound than the physical space. "You chose a path with Alex, Luna. You made that decision. And now, we're both paying for it." Tears streamed down her face. "I thought he was offering a better life. I was so wrong. I've lost you, haven't I?" I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on my chest. "I need to find a way to heal, Luna, and I can't do that with you by my side." The room was filled with a deafening silence, punctuated only by Luna's quiet sobs. The chasm of betrayal, lies, and broken trust lay vast and insurmountable between us. Luna rose slowly, her silhouette framed against the dim light. "I hope you find peace, Sam," she whispered, her voice quivering with pain and regret. As she left, the finality of our fractured relationship settled in. The love story that had once been filled with promise and dreams was now just a haunting tale of trust broken and paths forever diverged. The bitter sting of betrayal lingered, a constant reminder that not all stories have a redemption arc.
Story number 2.
As I adjusted the rearview mirror, the familiar skyscrapers of our old city faded in the distance. Ahead, the scenic beauty of our new town beckoned, with lush trees waving in greeting. The shift in scenery mirrored the fresh start I felt deep within. The job transfer had been unexpected, but sometimes life's surprises are its best gifts. Sarah and I had always dreamt of a peaceful life away from the hustle and bustle. When the job offer came in, with its promise of a better position and a significant pay raise, it felt like the universe was listening. "Here's to new beginnings," Sarah had whispered in my ear, her excitement infectious. Finding a house was the next big step. We skipped the cliched streets and settled on Maple Lane. Our new home was a charming little place with a backyard garden where I envisioned weekend barbecues and twilight tea sessions. It wasn't just a house, it felt like home. Our neighbors seemed friendly, often sharing a warm hello or a wave, making us feel welcomed. One lazy Sunday, as we lounged around, Sarah pinched her side playfully. "Dave," she said with mock exasperation, "we've been indulging a bit too much, haven't we? I think it's time I hit the gym." I grinned. "You're always beautiful to me." But I could see the earnestness behind her light tone. I wanted her to feel her best, to find her place and joy in this new setting. After some research, I stumbled upon Peak Fitness. It was top-rated and not far from home. Without a second thought, I got her a membership. I imagined it would be a good outlet for her, maybe even a place to make new friends. I surprised her with the membership card the next day, watching as her eyes widened in delight. "Oh, Dave, this is wonderful. Thank you," she said, wrapping her arms around me. As days turned into weeks, Sarah's gym tales became a regular part of our dinner conversations. She'd speak animatedly about her workouts, the new faces, and her experiences. It felt good to see her so happy. But little did I know that this very decision, meant to be a simple act of love, would soon change the course of our lives in ways I could never have imagined. The handsome coach. One evening, as I was organizing some papers in our study, I overheard Sarah chatting animatedly on the phone with her friend, Monica. "You won't believe the new coach at Peak Fitness, Mon," she giggled. "He's like one of those models from a fitness magazine cover." Intrigued, I couldn't help but listen in a bit more. Sarah rarely talked about people this way. "He's incredibly tall, has chiseled features, and you should see those muscles. Every time he walks into the room, everyone just stares." I chuckled to myself. It seemed like Sarah had a mini celebrity in her gym. She continued, "His name's Alex. You remember Jenna from the morning batch? She nearly dropped her weights today when he corrected her posture." It was heartening to hear Sarah so spirited. The move had been challenging, and hearing her so animated about a small gym crush felt endearing. Little harmless gym talk, I mused. The following week, Sarah seemed even more enthusiastic about her workouts. "Alex gave me some great tips today," she beamed one evening, her eyes shining. "He thinks I have potential, and if I'm interested, he's open to giving me personal training sessions." I hesitated for a split second. "That's great, isn't it?" I said, trying to sound enthusiastic. "Just be careful not to overdo it." Sarah caught the hint of concern in my voice. "Oh, Dave, it's not like that," she said, playfully nudging me. "It's just professional. Besides, think about how toned I'll be for our beach vacation next month." But as the days passed, Sarah began talking about Alex more frequently. Their workout sessions, the healthy diet he recommended, the jokes he cracked. It started becoming a regular part of our conversations. One evening, she showed me a video on her phone of her achieving a new fitness milestone, with Alex cheering her on in the background. "Look at that! I couldn't have done it without him," she gushed. I tried to brush off the uneasy feeling brewing within me. After all, Sarah was just excited about her fitness journey, right? Yet, I couldn't shake off the growing sense of unease every time his name was mentioned. Was it just innocent admiration, or was there something more lurking beneath the surface? The first suspicions. Over the next few weeks, I noticed subtle changes in our routines. The woman who once loved lazy mornings now jumped out of bed with a zeal I hadn't seen in years. Sarah's workout outfits grew trendier, and there was a new perfume she wore, one that I hadn't gifted her. One evening, I planned a surprise dinner for us. I cooked her favorite pasta and lit some candles. As the clock ticked past our usual dinner time, I found myself constantly glancing at the door. Sarah finally walked in almost 2 hours late, her face flushed and her hair disheveled. "Oh, Dave, I lost track of time at the gym. Alex was showing me some advanced moves," she said, sounding genuinely sorry. Trying to hide my disappointment, I served the now cold dinner. It wasn't just the late nights. There were now secretive phone calls, too. I'd often enter a room to find Sarah quickly ending a call or tilting her phone away. "Just gym stuff," she'd brush off when I asked. One Saturday morning, as I was fixing a leaky tap in our bathroom, Sarah's phone buzzed continuously on the counter. Curiosity getting the better of me, I glanced at the screen. There were several new messages, all from Alex. Most were about workouts, but a few were different, personal. "You looked great in that new outfit today," one of them read. A storm of emotions whirled inside me, anger, confusion, disbelief. But more than anything, I felt a pang of betrayal. I convinced myself that maybe I was reading too much into it. It was just a compliment, right? A few days later, my good friend Mike invited me for a drink. As we settled into our booth, he hesitated, then said, "Look, Dave, I don't want to stir things up, but I've seen Sarah and Alex together a couple of times at this new cafe downtown. They looked cozy." My heart sank. Mike continued, "I thought you should know, mate. I mean, it might be nothing, but it didn't sit right with me." As I drove home that night, my mind raced. Was Sarah just making a new friend, or was there something more to her bond with Alex? My trust in our relationship, once unwavering, now wobbled on shaky ground. The love of my life, my partner in everything, seemed to be slowly slipping away, and I felt powerless to stop it. The secret meeting. Over the next week, my thoughts were consumed by what Mike had told me. Every time Sarah left for the gym, a knot tightened in my stomach. I found myself distracted at work, replaying her interactions with Alex in my mind. Was I being paranoid, or was I missing blatant signs? One afternoon, I got an idea. What if I just happened to run into them at the cafe Mike mentioned? I could see for myself what was going on and maybe put my fears to rest. The following day, I left work early and drove to the cafe. Securing a hidden spot near the back, I settled in with a newspaper, peeking over the top every so often. The minutes turned into an hour, and I was just about to leave when they walked in, Sarah and Alex. My heart raced as I watched them from behind my newspaper shield. They chose a corner table, laughing about something. It wasn't the friendly banter between a coach and trainee. There was an intimacy to it that made my skin crawl. Their hands occasionally brushed against each other as they talked, and their laughter seemed just a little too personal. At one point, Alex whispered something into Sarah's ear, making her blush deeply. That image, of them so close, felt like a dagger in my chest. Doubt and disbelief warred within me. I wanted to storm over, to confront them then and there, but something held me back. Maybe it was the fear of causing a scene or the hope that I was still misinterpreting the situation. I needed more concrete evidence. Slipping out of the cafe, I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. The drive home was a blur. I entered our home, my home, with a heavy heart, trying to keep a facade of normalcy. Sarah was her usual self, talking about her day, completely oblivious to the fact that I knew about her secret rendezvous. That night, as she slept peacefully next to me, I lay awake, lost in my thoughts. The woman I loved was keeping secrets, and I was left grappling with the reality of our crumbling relationship. I needed to know the truth, no matter how painful. It was time for a confrontation. The discovery. As the days passed, the atmosphere in our home grew tenser. My smiles were strained, and conversations became curt. Sarah sensed it, I could tell, but neither of us addressed the looming cloud of suspicion. One evening, I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I know about the cafe, Sarah," I blurted out as we sat down for dinner. Her eyes widened in surprise, her fork halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" she stammered, trying to feign innocence. "I saw you, with Alex, laughing, whispering, getting cozy," I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and despair. Sarah looked taken aback. "Dave, it's not what you think. We're just friends." But I wasn't convinced. Friends. Since when do friends have secret meetings and whisper sweet nothings? Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with tears. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react this way, but it's truly innocent. We have coffee sometimes after our sessions. That's it." However, the growing pile of evidence in my mind refused to accept her explanation. "Then explain the texts, Sarah, the secretive phone calls, the change in your behavior." She looked down, playing with her food. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "All right, there's something you should know." She walked over to a drawer and pulled out a sleek folder. Handing it over, she said, "Open it." Curiously, I flipped it open. Inside were detailed plans for a new fitness center, brochures, and a business proposal. The title read, "Revive Fitness, a New Horizon in Wellness and Training." I looked up at her, puzzled. "What's this?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Alex approached me with a business proposal a few weeks ago. He wanted to start a new fitness center, and he thought I'd be a great partner, given my passion and knack for management. We were working on this together, Dave. That's what the meetings were about. It was all business." I was dumbstruck. All the pieces of the puzzle suddenly fit, but in a way I hadn't expected. The realization hit me hard. My suspicions, my accusations, all were rooted in a grave misunderstanding. "But why keep it a secret?" I whispered. She sighed. "I wanted it to be a surprise, a venture of our own, something we could look forward to. But I realize now I should have been transparent with you." We sat in silence, the weight of my accusations and her revelations hanging heavily between us. The path ahead seemed uncertain, but one thing was clear: trust, once broken, would take time to rebuild. The confrontation. The revelation about the business venture left me reeling. I was torn between feeling relieved that my wife wasn't having an affair and the guilt of having doubted her in the first place. I had let jealousy and suspicion cloud my judgment, and the aftermath of that was a gulf of distance between Sarah and me. A few nights later, Sarah and I sat in the dimly lit living room, the only sound being the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock. There was so much I wanted to say, to apologize for, but words failed me. "Dave, we can't go on like this," Sarah began, her voice barely above a whisper. "You need to trust me." "I do, Sarah. I truly do. When I saw you with him, laughing, sharing secrets, I felt replaced, left out." Sarah's face crumpled. "I never meant to make you feel that way, but you should have talked to me, not jumped to conclusions." She was right, but another nagging thought remained. Why Alex, Sarah? Of all people. Why get involved with him? Sarah looked away for a moment, collecting her thoughts. "He's good at what he does, Dave, and he saw potential in our partnership. It was purely professional. But I wasn't ready to let go. You must have seen how he acted, the messages he sent. They weren't just professional." Sarah sighed. "He did get a bit friendly, maybe even flirty, but I kept it strictly about business. I set boundaries." I rubbed my temples, trying to process everything. "You should have told me. About the flirty texts, about everything, instead of keeping secrets." Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "I know. I should have. But I didn't want to worry you, or make you think it was something it wasn't." Before we could continue, there was a sudden knock on the door. I opened it to find Alex, looking a bit disheveled and holding a bouquet of flowers. "Is Sarah here?" I wanted to apologize for the misunderstandings and hope we can continue with the project, he said, a little too confidently. Seeing him at our doorstep was the last straw for me. You've done enough, I snapped, anger surging through me. Stay away from my wife and stay away from this house. Alex seemed taken aback. Look, I get it, you're upset, but I never intended to come between you two. We have a potentially successful venture at hand. Let's not ruin it over personal differences. Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm. Alex, the project is on hold until further notice, and for the sake of professionalism, I'd prefer if our future meetings are kept within business hours and at the office. Alex looked between us, the weight of the situation finally settling in. All right, he said, defeated. I hope we can sort this out soon. He left the bouquet by the doorstep and retreated. Closing the door, Sarah and I turned to face each other. We were both at a crossroads, grappling with feelings of betrayal and misunderstanding. The future of our relationship hung in the balance, and only time would tell if we could find our way back to each other. The planned days turned into weeks, and while the air between Sarah and me was still thick with tension, there was an underlying desire to rebuild what had been shaken. We both felt it, even if neither of us said it aloud. We began attending couples therapy, which provided us a platform to air our grievances and work through the mistrust. One evening, after a particularly emotional therapy session, I sat at our kitchen island, going over bills and household accounts. I stumbled across a credit card statement, one I wasn't familiar with. Curiosity piqued. I went through the charges. There were several large amounts credited to a company named Revive Ventures. My heart sank. It was related to the fitness center project. Sarah, I called out hesitantly, holding up the statement. She walked in, glanced at the paper, and took a deep breath. I used our joint savings for the initial payments for the center. I thought it would be a profitable venture for us. I wish you had discussed this with me first, I replied, trying to keep my voice even. Sarah's face was a mix of guilt and desperation. I know, Dave. I messed up, but we can't back out now. We stand to lose everything. A heavy silence settled between us. The weight of our decisions, both spoken and unspoken, pressed down on us. I have an idea, I began slowly, my mind racing. What if we take control of this project? Ensure that it becomes the success you envisioned. But this time, we do it together. Sarah looked up, hope glimmering in her eyes for the first time in weeks. How? We get involved in every aspect of it, from the layout of the gym to the training programs to marketing, and most importantly, we set clear boundaries with Alex. Sarah nodded, determination setting in. We can do this, together. Over the next few days, we dived into the project headfirst. We researched competitors, drew up marketing plans, and brainstormed ideas to make our fitness center stand out. The more we worked on it, the more our bond strengthened. We were a team again. We also met with Alex, laying down clear guidelines for our professional relationship. While he was initially resistant, he understood that our united front was non-negotiable. Late one night, as we pored over design layouts, Sarah looked up at me. Thank you, Dave, for believing in this, in us. I smiled, taking her hand. We're in this together. The fitness center, our shared dream, became the anchor that pulled us out of our stormy seas. It was a symbol of our renewed commitment to each other. And as we worked towards its launch, we realized that while the path of love is never smooth, navigating it together makes it worth the journey. The Fallout Revive Fitness was shaping up to be a formidable venture. Every brick, every machine, every advertisement bore testimony to Sarah's vision and our combined efforts. With our grand opening just a few weeks away, the pressure was mounting. One morning, as I was scouring local papers for any mention of our center, an article caught my eye. It was in the business section, a feature on upcoming fitness ventures in the city. Eagerly, I began to read, expecting a positive mention of Revive Fitness. Instead, what I found was a scathing critique. The article hinted at mismanagement, questionable financial dealings, and even made veiled insinuations about Sarah's relationship with Alex. My blood boiled. "Sarah!" I shouted, waving the paper. She came running, worry lines evident on her face. As she skimmed the article, her face turned a shade paler. "This is sabotage," she whispered. We both knew who was behind it. Alex. Despite our attempts to keep things professional, it was clear he was unhappy with our united front, perhaps seeing it as a threat to his role in the venture. We had to act, and fast. Negative publicity like this could spell the end for our fledgling business before it even began. "We need to address this publicly," I said, determination filling me. "Clear our names and set the record straight." Sarah nodded. "A press conference. Let's invite all major media outlets and put forth our side of the story." Over the next 2 days, our home turned into a war room. We gathered evidence of our business dealings, our financial statements, everything that could prove the allegations false. The day of the press conference arrived. The room was packed with reporters, their cameras flashing. The hum of whispers filled the room as Sarah and I took our places at the podium. "We've called this press conference to address the false allegations made against us and our business," Sarah began, her voice steady. "For the next hour, we presented our evidence, refuting every claim made in the damaging article. The audience watched, rapt, as we laid out the truth. As the conference concluded, reporters swarmed us with questions. It was evident the tide was turning in our favor. That evening, as the story of our press conference made headlines, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from Alex. "Meet me. We need to talk." The next day, at a quiet park, I faced Alex. "Why, Alex?" I asked, anger evident in my voice. "Why try to sabotage us?" Alex looked down, guilt and regret evident on his face. "I felt sidelined, replaced. When you two united, I felt my role diminish. I overreacted. I'm sorry." His apology, though sincere, couldn't undo the damage he'd inflicted. "You need to make it right, Alex. Publicly." He nodded, understanding the gravity of his actions. Over the next week, Alex gave several interviews, retracting his statements and apologizing for his role in the smear campaign. The public, always eager for a redemption story, lapped it up. However, the trust was broken. Sarah and I decided to buy out Alex's share in the venture, parting ways professionally. The fallout from the controversy made one thing clear. In business and in life, trust is fragile, and once shattered, it's a long road to recovery. The rejection. I was going over the guest list for the grand launch of Revive Fitness when my phone buzzed. An unknown number, but the message was clear. "Meet me at the park near the fountain. Midnight. There's something you should know." A chill ran down my spine. Who could this be, and what did they want to tell me? The clock seemed to move slower that evening, every tick echoing with the weight of anticipation. When midnight finally approached, I made my way to the park. The moonlight painted everything in a soft, ghostly hue. I could see a silhouette near the fountain, and as I drew closer, I recognized Natalie, Sarah's best friend. "Dave," she began, her voice shaky, "there's something you need to know." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Go on," I urged. She looked me straight in the eyes. "That article about Revive, the accusations." Sarah knew. She didn't orchestrate it, but she knew it was coming out. She thought it would create buzz for the center. I felt a rush of emotions: betrayal, disbelief, anger. "Why would she?" I murmured, trying to make sense of it. Natalie wiped away a tear. Pressure, desperation. She thought any publicity would help. My heart was heavy as I walked back home. The walls of our house, which once echoed with love and laughter, now felt cold and distant. The next morning, I faced Sarah. My voice trembled. "Did you know about the article, Sarah?" Her reaction said it all. She looked away, guilt evident. "I thought it would help, Dave. I never realized the consequences." I could feel a chasm growing between us. "You risked our reputation, our trust, for what? A moment in the spotlight?" Tears streamed down her face. "I'm so sorry, Dave. I messed up." But the damage was done. "I need space," I said, my voice breaking. "I need to figure things out." She reached out, but I pulled away. The house, our relationship, everything felt different. The following days were a blur. The grand opening of Revive Fitness was a success, but my personal life was falling apart. Sarah tried to reach out, her messages filled with regret and longing, but every word was a painful reminder of the trust we had lost. I had always imagined we'd face life's challenges together, but now I wasn't so sure. The betrayal had left a scar, and I didn't know if it would ever heal. The days blurred into a somber gray monotony, each morning tainted by the residue of last night's disputes. Our house, once a sanctuary of shared dreams and passions, now felt like a cold war zone. Every conversation seemed to walk a tightrope, every silence pregnant with unsaid words. One day, a familiar melody danced into the room. It was our song, the one that played on our first date. The nostalgia gripped me, and a flood of memories washed over. Memories of brighter, happier days. Suddenly, the door creaked open. Sarah stood there, a flicker of hope in her eyes, holding a small box. "Dave," she whispered, her voice quivering. "I found this. It's the mixtape you made me when we first met. I thought, maybe, if we listened to it together, it might remind us of why we fell in love in the first place." My heart wrenched, but I felt the walls I had built over time were too thick to penetrate now. "Sarah," I began, my voice firm yet gentle. "There were so many beautiful moments, but the pain, it's too much. I can't just forget and move on." She took a deep breath, her fingers nervously playing with the edges of the box. "We can try therapy, counseling, anything, Dave. I believe we can get through this." The sincerity in her voice was evident, but the raw wounds of betrayal and the shadows of the past weighed heavily on me. "Sarah," I responded, a lump in my throat. "I can't live in the what-ifs and maybes. I've tried, but every time I look into your eyes, all I see is the pain we've inflicted on each other." Tears threatened to spill from her eyes. "Dave, I'm begging you, give us another chance. We've been through so much together." I felt a deep sadness. It was clear she still clung to the hope that love could conquer all, but reality had shown me differently. "I wish I could, Sarah. But the trust, once shattered, is impossible to mend, at least for me." The atmosphere grew heavy, the silence between us widening like an abyss. Sarah finally nodded, her tears breaking free. "If that's what you truly feel," she whispered, her voice breaking, "then I guess there's nothing more to say." I stood at a crossroads, torn between the pain of the past and the faint hope of a possible future with Sarah. Her eyes searched mine, desperate for an answer. But in this moment of uncertainty, I turned to you. Should I give our love another chance, or is the pain too much to bear? What would you do?